All right, everybody. If you haven't already, please take out this lesson 3 homework practice with add and subtract like fractions and add and subtract unlike fractions. So our lovely substitute can collect that from you. It needs to be out on your desk. And you should be turned to page 299 on add and subtract mixed numbers. If you hear some sweet voices, it's Miss Gracie. She's here with me while I get things ready because Coach Blake is recruiting in Texas. So it's just Grace and I. All right. So we're going to be talking about adding and subtracting mixed numbers today. Like I said yesterday, this is going to be a lot of switching back and forth from mixed numbers to improper fractions. So that needs to be a skill that you have. I'm hoping that many of you practiced a little bit last night, and you'll see today that you need to continue to practice because our quiz is coming up shortly. You guys will be quizzing in, it's today going to be Tuesday. Tomorrow we'll do skill check review, and then most likely you will be quizzing on Thursday. So let's take a look at this. We have a junior length hockey stick and an adult hockey stick. Clearly the junior length is a little bit smaller than the adult. We're going to use the expression 4 5/6 minus 3 2/3 to find how much longer the adult hockey stick is than the junior hockey stick. So one thing is we are going to rename these fractions because we cannot subtract or add these fractions when they have unlike denominators. We practiced that yesterday, changing these to like denominators. And if you're good with multiples, you can tell that 6 is a multiple of 3. So we're going to be changing the thirds to 6. So that's why we've written 4 5/6. So the first thing to do is to rename those fractions using the lowest common denominator of 6. So we have 3 2/3. Do we have to change this whole number into 6? No, because we can subtract and add whole numbers on their own. We do, however, I'm going to write a 3 here. We do, however, need to change this 2/3 into a fraction. What's up, baby girl? No, it's okay. We got that door closed. You got your nuggets? She's eating chicken nuggets. So I've got 2/3 here. In order to change it into 6, I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom, the numerator and the denominator, by 2 so I can make an equivalent fraction. It's really important that we do that top part. So we've got 4/6 here. So we have 4 5/6 minus 3 4/6. What's really nice about this is this whole number, you can subtract this whole number easily. It's larger than that. And this fraction, 5/6, is bigger than 4/6. So this is a very simple fraction. We don't have to do anything funky. We can just subtract across the way. So 4 minus 3 is 1, and 5 minus 4 is also 1, and we still have 6. So our answer is 1 1/6. I have a hard time saying that one. And it says explain how to find 3 7/10 minus 2 2/5. Well, just like we did up here, our first thing would be to rename those fractions. So we would change this into tenths to solve that. So we're going to do 3 7/10 minus, we don't have to change the 2, but I do have to change those fifths. I'm going to times by 2, top and bottom to get tenths. 2 times 2 is 4. So now, again, a really nice, neat little fraction subtraction problem. We will get more complex in a little bit. 3 minus 2 is 1. 7 minus 4 is 3. And that is even also, these are both reduced to the smallest value. So don't even need to worry about that. All right, go ahead and turn the page. At the top, it's going to give you some steps for adding or subtracting mixed numbers. But the very first thing is, if it's necessary, you need to rename them by using the lowest common denominator. And then you're going to add or subtract the whole numbers and simplify if necessary. But it says first add or subtract the fractions. The reason why we're going to look at the fractions first is because we're going to look at both the fractions and the mixed numbers. But if those fractions, if the one on the left is bigger than the one on the right, you can subtract it. If the one on the left is not bigger than the one on the right, we can't subtract that. Y'all done with that? Okay. She just gave me her juice stuff. Okay. Sometimes when you subtract those mixed numbers, though, the fraction in the first mixed number is less than the second. And we're going to talk about those later. And we're going to rename both fractions or one of them in order to subtract. So don't worry about, that's a lot of words. Don't worry about it. I'm going to give you some examples. This nice little fraction right here is a pretty simple fraction. Let me get really close, a little closer for you. Look, we're adding. We've got the same denominator, so we can go ahead and add. 7 plus 10 is 17. 4 plus 2 is 6/9. And then we can go ahead and simplify, of course. Now, I don't love stacking them like this because you have to look at the numerator and then skip over to look at the numerator. I like to have them like this. And then I just go across. I go whole number, that's 17. And then I go 4 plus 2 is 6, and I carry over the denominator. So it depends on what you're into. I like that better than this. And that's just how my brain works. So that first example is pretty simple when they're both the same denominator. Now, if I'm going to an example like this one where it has 8 and 5/6 and 2 and 1/3, well, that's different because I have 6 and thirds, just like I did in that first example. So I'm going to go ahead and rename this thirds into 6 because that's the least common multiple. If I did an M on the side and I had 6 and 3s, I'm going to see that 6 is going to be the common multiple there for those of you who didn't get how I got that. All right, so I have 8 and 5/6. That's going to stay exactly the same. And I'm going to multiply this by 2. Oops, careful, Gracie. You don't want to knock those nuggets down. You want to sit with mommy? Okay. I'm going to multiply those by 2, and we're going to get 2 and 2/6.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye. That's my microphone, so don't touch, please. No, thank you. So I've got 2/6 here. And this is going to be 6 and 3/6 or 6.5. Okay, sweetie girl, you're not going to be able to do that. Yeah, that's mommy's microphone. If you touch it, it's going to sound weird.
Yeah, bye.
Microphone. All right. So while she's playing, I want you guys to do a couple of these with me. Okay. Let's do this first one together. I will give you about 20 seconds to do that one. Same denominator, so go ahead and add the whole numbers and add the numerators and reduce. B, yeah, B for Blake.
Wow.
Oh, Red Hawks, is that football? Football. Oh, you get some little bit of barbecue here. All right. 6 plus 2 is 8. 5 plus 1 is 6. 8 and 6/8. You know anything about even numbers? They can be divisible by 2. So that's going to be 8 and 3/4. Doing okay so far? Those are the simple ones. Now let's move on to something a little bit more complicated. Would you please do B for me? Uh-oh. Lots of barbecue. Uh-oh. It's a real big uh-oh. Uh-oh, barbecue everywhere. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I'm going to put these over here for you. Okay. So hopefully what you've done is you've changed those fifths to tenths because 10 is the common multiple for this one. So 5 and, if we times 2 on the top and on the bottom, we have 2 tenths plus 2 and 3/10. We can add the whole numbers, 5 and 2. Let me focus this a little bit here. 5 and 2 is 7. 3 and 2 is 5. 7 and 5/10. I think that's worse, that focus. And of course, that is 7 and 1/2. All right, go ahead and do F, please. We're going to be subtracting instead. Find that lowest common denominator. Which looks like 6. And we're going to have to change both of these in this case. So let's change this to 6, 8. To get 6, we're going to multiply by 2. There are 2 of them here. So that's 4 6 minus 2, and let's multiply that by 3. So I have 3 6. 8 minus 2 is 6. 4 minus 3 is 1 6. Now, all the ones on these pages were very simple. They didn't have to do any further thinking. You just made the change and you did the subtraction, the addition. But they get a little more complicated. So first of all, let's take a look at the example on page 301. Someone tell me what's wrong with that. What's wrong with these fractions? These are different than the last ones. Look at this 1/3 is a lot smaller than that 2/3. So we're going to need to make some changes. There are two ways that we can change that. Let me show you the first one. Remember yesterday I told you I'm going to show you two ways, and one way is going to hurt your brains, some of you, and some of you are going to love this, and you're going to just eat it up, and it's going to be great. And others of you are going to hate it, and that's fine. You don't have to use this first one. But I want to kind of show you what we can do is this 2 is actually 2 wholes, and those wholes are divided into 3 pieces, right? Where we can divide them into 3. So I've got 2 wholes and 1/3. So this is what this looks like here. It's 2 wholes and 1/3. If I need more thirds, and I do because I can't subtract 2/3 when I only have 1, wouldn't it be nice if I got a bunch more thirds, like 3 more thirds? 1 whole here, we can make that into thirds. And now I have 1 whole and 1, 2, 3, 4 thirds. So I've rewritten this as 1 and 4 thirds. Yes, that's an improper fraction here on the side. That we did that on purpose. We needed those thirds. We just kind of pulled them out. It kind of reminds me of borrowing, like when we are subtracting numbers and we look next door and we borrow. This 2 becomes a 1 because we're taking away a whole, and that whole goes into here, and it's really, a whole is 3/3, right? And 3 plus 1 is 4, and that makes it 1 and 4 thirds. So if you like that, oh, someone found some crayons. If you like that, use it. Use it. You can change and just borrow some things like that, and it's not a big deal, and it'll work really, really well for you. Here you go, sweet girl. You want these crayons? Here you go. But if that hurts your brain, here's what I would suggest that everyone does. It will work every time. We write this as an improper fraction. So these are mixed numbers, right? Remember how I told you we're going to change those to improper fraction? Remember on your foldable, we multiply 2 times 3 because it's really 2 wholes plus the 1. So 2 times 3 is 6 plus 1 is 7. So I have 7 thirds. This is the same as 2 and 1/3. This one is 1 and 2/3. So we're going to do 3 times 1 is 3. Plus 2 is 5, so I've got 5 thirds. And then we're going to subtract 7 minus 5 is 2, and we're left with 2 thirds. Okay? So either method, whether you did it up here, or you did it by reorganizing these and subtracting them, or if you did it using this method by writing them as improper fractions and then just simplifying it afterwards, they're both going to get you the same answer. So don't lock yourself into this unless that is what your brain sees. This is going to be probably 85% of us is going to just change them to improper fractions. It's pretty simple. Then if they don't have the same denominator, we'll change them. Okay? So let's do a couple of these. I would like you to do K. I would like you to do I, and I would like you to do G. Do G last because that's a little bit funky. Do K, I, and G. I'll give you some time. Got some crayons? Oh, this is paper here for you to draw on. Look at this orange. Ooh, is that a triangle? Pink. Nice job. If you're having trouble, take out that foldable. You can read the directions. We're going from mixed numbers to improper fractions. If I remember correctly, that's on the right side of your foldable. Let's see. Yes, it sure is. It says multiply the whole number times the denominator and then add to the numerator to find the numerator of the improper fraction and keep the same denominator. So let's take a look at this first one here. Let's change those up. All righty. 3 times 4 is 12, plus 1 is 13. And we're sticking with the fourths because we didn't change those pieces. Minus 4 times 1 is 4, plus 3 is 7. 7/4. Now this is a regular old subtraction problem. You don't have to keep change. If you do, it will work. But we follow our normal rules. 13 minus 7 is 6. 6/4. Now here's the deal. Remember how I said you're going to be interchanging back and forth from improper to mixed? We changed from mixed to improper, and now that we have our answer in fourths, we have to change it back to a mixed number. So if you need to, you grab your foldable and look at improper fractions to mixed numbers, and it says divide the numerator by the denominator, just like this. Once you've done your division, your quotient, your answer, that's how many whole groups of 5 there are in this case. So that's why they put 4. The remainder is your numerator, and you keep that same denominator. So let's do that to 6/4 here. I've got, if you need to write to the side, you can. 4 goes into 6 one time with 2 left over. So I've got 1 whole, and I've got 2 leftover fourths, which is going to reduce to 1 1/2. Positive, because we have 2 positive numbers that we're subtracting and not going into the negative realm. All right, let's take a look at this one. I may have to rewrite it up here. 11 times 5 is 55, plus 2 is 57. 57 fifths. A lot of fifths. It's okay. You can have a big number up there. 11 is a lot. It's whole. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 3 is 13. And we're subtracting those. So we have 7, 6, 5, 4. 5 minus 1 is 4. 44 fifths. Again, we have to change this improper fraction back into a mixed number. We have to see how many whole groups of 5 there are. So I'm going to do 44 divided by 5. I know that 5 times 8 is 40. And that leaves me with the remainder of 4. So 8 is my whole number. I've got 8 groups of 5 with 4 little fifths left over. And that is simplified because 5 is prime. All right, last one was a little bit trickier. What is the number 7 written as a fraction? Yeah, it's 7/1, not 7/7. That would be 1. 7/1 is 7 wholes, right? Well, we have halves here. So we need to change these into halves for 1. And we need to rewrite this. So let's rewrite this one first. 1 times 2 is 2, plus 1 is 3. So I've got 3 halves. And I need to change 7/1 into halves. So in order to do that, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 2. And I have 14 halves. So 14 halves, whoops, minus 3 halves is 11 halves. And now, of course, we have to change that back into a mixed number. So 2 goes into 11, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 5 times with 1/2 left over. 5 1/2. How'd you do on that? Think about what practice you need. What do you need more practice on? You're not going to get better at any of this unless you practice. You're just not. Unless you're just a normally strong math person who's been strong at it forever, don't expect to be better at this. Like, oh, I've done it once or twice. I'm going to be great. No, it's just like basketball or running or anything like that. The more you do it, the more you're going to improve at that. So make time to intentionally practice. Let's go to page 302. And I've got a word problem here. I'm not too concerned about the word problems at this point, but it is kind of a hefty one when you get things changed around, okay? What we did is we looked at this and we said, okay, a skateboarder is making a skateboard park and it's 120.5 feet. And the length of the parking lot is 40 1/3 feet. So what will the length of the park and the lot be combined? So we're adding 120.5 and 40 1/3. So we need to change these to a common, least common denominator. And if we're doing our multiples over here, we know that the least common denominator between 2 and 3 is 6. We've already done it. So we need to change halves to 6. So times 3 gives us 120 and 3 6. And then these times 2, 40 and 2 6. So we should be getting very good at changing fractions to equivalent fractions. And then you're adding whole numbers and the fractions, and you end up with 160 and 5/6 feet. All right. Let's do some more examples, and then I will give you your homework for today. I want you to go ahead and do number 1, 2, number 2, and number 3. Number 1, number 2, and number 3. And of course, if you finish with these, you can go ahead onto the next page, because that's where I'm going to start my homework assignment. But I'm going to give you some time to do numbers 1, 2, and 3. Oh, don't eat those if they've hit the floor. These floors are pretty gross. Yep. Gross floors. Yucca. You want any more of this apple sauce stuff? Yeah. Boom. Good job. When you're working on these, you have two options. You can either change these into those improper fractions first and then find the common denominator, or you can change these to a common denominator first and then change them into improper fractions. Just kind of depends on your style. All right, let's get started on this first one. Okay, well, I think I want to change it to a common denominator first, because I know that 2 and 5, 10, I know is going to be the common denominator, whether you need to write it out in M or not. That's what we're going to get. I'm going to change it to tens first, because then I can multiply by tens pretty easily when I'm trying to change it back into an improper fraction. So I've got 8. I'm going to multiply by 5 on the top and on the bottom. So I have 8 and 5/10 plus these ones I'm going to multiply by 2 plus 3 stays the same, and 4 times 2 is 8 and 8/10. All right. Well, I don't even need to change them to an improper fraction. It's going to be great because we're adding these. So 8 plus 3 is 11. 8 plus 5 is 13. Now here we have a predicament, don't we? We have 11 wholes and then we have 13/10. I know this is an improper fraction, so I still need to change this into a mixed number. You could do this a couple of different ways. If you can do it in your head and just add it back into the 11, awesome. Or you can kind of write the 11 over here and separate it from 13/10. So let's take 13 and divide by 10. It's going to go in 1 time with the remainder of 3. So that is 1 and 3/10. And now I can add those together. 11 plus 1 is 12 and 3/10. And 3 is prime. It doesn't go into 10, so I know that 12 and 3/10 is the answer there. You can do this by changing these into improper fractions and then changing them to tenths. You will get the same answer if you reduce properly at the end. It just depends on what kind of work you want to do and what makes your brain happy. All right. This one right here, I have 5/6 and 1/6. Do I have to rewrite these? No, I'm subtracting and I can leave them 6. This is just a straight across. 7 minus 3 is 4. 5 minus 1 is also 4. And I can divide by 2. So I've got 4 and 2/3. That's my answer right there. All right, the last one though is going to be a little bit different, isn't it? 11 is the same as 11 over 1. And this is 6 and 3/8. So we're going to need to change these to eighths. And then we're going to need to move that to an improper fraction. So let's change it to eighths. Ah, that is mommy on my name tag. Ah, good job. All right, so I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 8 to get eighths. So that gives me 88 eighths. When I divide that, I get 111, right? Minus 6 and 8, 3 eighths. So let's change that. 8 times 6 plus 3. 6 times 8 is 48, 51. Well, those multiplication facts I have to think about. 51 eighths. So now I can subtract these eighths. 8 minus 51 is 37. So I've got 37 eighths. And I need to change this back into a mixed number. So 37 divided by 8. Remember, you need to be fluent in this. We can do this fast. 8 times, excuse me, 4 is 32, which leaves us with 5. So I've got 4 whole groups of 8, and I've got 5 little eighths left over. 5 is prime, so that's what I've got is 4 and 5 eighths. All right, here's what your homework is. Your homework is going to be on this back page here, 303. You're going to do page 303, numbers 1 through 9. That's right, I just want you to do the top part. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I want you to work on those. Of course, as usual, you may work with one partner quietly or check with them as you're getting your answers to see if they've come up with the same things as you. When you finish with your homework, you may find something to do, or you may continue on and do some of these other problems, or make up some own problems of your own to practice getting these from mixed numbers to improper fractions and back, vice versa. What you may not do is talk to a friend. You may not get up and wander around the classroom and talk to or touch or poke other people or touch their stuff. There's way too much of that going on. Our lovely substitute is going to let me know who has issues and who they had to remind over and over again, or maybe even just once or twice. Because some of you don't have that luxury anymore, and others of you are glad to have a non-distracting environment. So get some practice done, and we will talk tomorrow.